The Fetch are mysterious little creatures. They appear before humans to warn them of their coming death, and they always take all the appearance of those they appear before. The Fetch are like the Irish version of a doppelganger, but they only ever appear as omens of death. So according to legend, if you meet someone who looks exactly like yourself in every single way, you will surely die soon. Ballycotton is a small coastal village in County Cork. On July 7th, 1878, the people awoke that morning to see an island in the ocean where there had never been one before. Word soon spread, with some locals going out in their boats to investigate. As they got nearer, but they were soon to discover that the buildings contained nothing but human skeletons. This made them want to leave, but the island disappeared again before they could, and neither they or the islands have ever been seen again. St Michael's Church has stood in Dublin City since the year 1095. Underneath the church are 5 vaults that contain the mummified bodies of numerous people. For many centuries, numerous tales have been associated with them. It is said that on every full moon, the mummies come to life, and that they leave their vaults, and on the streets of Dublin they would search for houses where everyone was asleep. If a window had been left open, or a door had been left unlocked, the mummies would enter the home and suffocate their victims as they slept. But not to worry, but they were only able to do this on the full moon, and at any other time they weren't even able to move. But their whispers can be heard echoing through the vaults. In the 5th century, there was a notorious chieftain named Arbertach. He was tyrannical and hated by his own people. So they asked a rival chieftain to murder him. Arbertach was duly murdered and buried, and his people celebrated their freedom. But Arbertach soon rose from the dead and demanded his subjects pay him a blood tribute to keep him alive. Instead, they killed him again, but he rose from the grave again, and they soon realised that they couldn't kill what was already dead. They sought the advice of a local magician, who informed him that Arbertach was already dead and he could not be killed again as he was no longer human. The only way to stop him was to pierce his heart with a sword made from the yew tree, put him into the ground upside down and cover him with ash branches and thorns. And when this was done, a heavy stone slab was to be placed over the grave. Arbertach's grave can be found in the middle of a field in the north of Derry, between the town lines of Garva and Dungiven. It is said that Marjorie MacColl died and was buried in 1705. She was buried with a valuable ring on her finger, and this was widely known by the local people at the time, and it wasn't long that the news of this treasure leaked out to the resurrectionists. On the evening that her body was interred, the grave robbers paid Marjorie a visit. Working under the cover of darkness, they opened Marjorie's coffin and attempted to remove the ring from her finger, but it wouldn't budge. Realising that she couldn't get any deader, they agreed to cut off her finger to free the ring. As soon as blood was drawn from Marjorie, she bolted upright. Her eyes were wild and they were wide open, and she wailed like a banshee. There are different reports as to the fate of the grave robbers. One states that one of the men dropped dead with fright, and the other that they both fled and never again resumed their dubious business. The bound Marjorie helped herself out of the graveyard and stumbled the short distance to her home and knocked on her door. When the door had knocked 3 times, her husband John said to the children, "If your mother was still alive, I'd swear that was her knock." And sure enough, when he opened the door, he was confronted by his late wife, still dressed in her burial clothes and blood dripping from a severely severed finger. John dropped dead on the spot. Marjorie was alive and relatively well, but poor John was now deader than Marjorie ever was, and he was soon to be buried in the plot that Marjorie had just vacated. Marjorie went on to remarry and have several more children.
although it was often rumoured that she'd left the grave pregnant by an unspecified suitor. When she did finally die, she was returned to Shankill graveyard, and to this day her gravestone still stands. It bears the inscription, "Lived once, buried twice."